Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're going to be talking about the spell Mislead. All right.
Before we dive into this, you said this is like the poor man's project image to me before we started recording. So that's how you feel about it?
That's my initial interpretation. Yes. It's
I mean, that's
you. Well, all right. We'll talk about that. But to do so, let's get into what does the spell do?
sure. So this is greater invisibility, plus you get a duplicate. So for an action, you make yourself invisible for up to an hour with concentration. Then when you cast it, when you become invisible, you get a duplicate. You can then use your action to move your duplicate up to twice your speed. Make a gesture, speak, behave in whatever way you want. It's your duplicate. You can do with it as you please for your action. You can also see through its eyes and hear through its ears as if you were located where it is, which is pretty neat. And on each of your turns, you can use your bonus action to switch your senses between your body and the duplicate. While you're using your senses, you're blinded and deafened, all that clause stuff that happens with the familiars and whatnot. I think at its baseline, what you should think about Mislead as is an upgraded version of Greater Invisibility. Because Greater Invisibility lets you cast spells and do stuff for a minute, and this is an invisibility lets you cast spells and do stuff for an hour. So that's a pretty notable upgrade that also just happens to come with an illusory duplicate that you can do whatever you want with, which can be nifty. It can be neat.
However, I mean, invisibility means that you're invisible. Nobody knows that you're around. This, kind of necessitates that a version of you is here.
I mean, you can have it's an illusory duplicate, right?
Yeah.
You can have it do whatever you'd like. It's an illusion.
Yeah.
I think it's within the realm of the spell where you can be like, I want the illusion to just drop into the floor and just stay in there. I don't see that being out of the range of like, it's not a physical object. It passes through things. It fails upon all mundane inspection. So like, find a barrel that it just curls up into if you were trying to be invisible, right? Just there's any number of ways
you
I
can
think
hide
you
in a
could
closet or something.
yeah, get rid of the duplicate. If the goal is to just go with the invisibility and you don't want to have your duplicate alerting people to your presence. But most times, and I think whenever people casting the spell, the reason is the illusory duplicate's planning on doing some form of deception, getting people to think you are where you aren't, and you have an hour to sort of facilitate and set that up. So you can, where project image is the higher level version of this, I think Mislead hits it right in the right spot of usefulness, where when you need to be somewhere else, you mislead, go to your ill doings, your duplicate is somewhere else for your alibi, and you're good. You're good to go. You've done the thing. You've been somewhere while performing events elsewhere, which is sort of the intended, well, I view it as the intended design of what Mislead's trying to do.
Well, I mean, when we were talking about project image, your big thing was the villain monologuing.
Sure.
Which
this does the
you
same
can
thing.
certainly do with that. And
And it's a way lower cost.
For cheaper, yeah. It's like, my people, arrows to the head. Haha, losers.
Interrupts giant monologue for the haha losers. I would recommend that. That's a great way to taunt people. Yeah, so whenever you compare this to project image, do you think like, do you care about the scope and city? Is being able to put your image anywhere you want better than just misleading? Project image doesn't make you invisible.
It depends on what I'm using it for. I mean, I forget. I thought I had some other uses for project image. I don't remember what they were right now, but anyway, for monologuing, yeah, you can sit in the next room and just go, walk your image out on the balcony and get shot at a bunch. That's fine. What level is greater invisibility?
Greater invisibility is a 4th level spell, so this is only one spell level higher, but it like majorly increases the duration 60 times.
But what about regular invisibility?
That's a 2nd level slot, and it also lasts an hour. The big invisibility downside is it ends whenever you do something harmful to another creature or cast another spell. So hypothetically, what Mislead and Greater Invisibility both can do is give you a tool that lets you be invisible, getting advantage on all your attack rolls, advantage on all spell attack rolls, and maintain invisibility, which is very useful. Now, granted, Greater Invisibility can go on other creatures. Mislead is only ever yourself. So if the predominant reason you're using invisibility is to make your rogue invisible, or your ranger invisible, or your barbarian invisible, so you can pop out of nowhere and murder things with a giant axe, Mislead can't do that at all. But if you're predominantly making yourself invisible, Mislead it really is just a major upgrade. And the illusory duplicate, I don't know. What would you do with an illusory duplicate in combat?
In combat,
Yeah,
not. I mean, have them there to have soak up some attacks.
conceivably, yeah. I think it's not unreasonable to think that this thing, if you are a valid threat and it's going exactly where you were, right? So you take an action, they still see you in the space that you were just in, and then you scoot somewhere else and have it do whatever. If you were being attacked, conceivably, it's going to keep attacking the duplicate and eat some actions. That's decent. And then you're also invisible. So that seems like, as a floor, quite good, right?
Maybe I would slowly disrobe.
Sure. While are you as the invisible you, or you as the duplicate?
Does it? Well, that's just it. Is it like, or with project image, it mimics exactly what your actions are. Does this have the same thing going
Nope.
on?
Mislead lets you do whatever you want with it, but it
All
does
right.
take your action to make it do the things. So you'd have to spend your action to make your illusory duplicate disrobe if that was the goal.
Well, I guess that would depend on how I thought that was going to affect my targets.
Sure. I mean, it was a known combat tactic back in
Hello,
England.
boys.
Different combat tactic, but all right, yeah, sure. If that's where you're
Oh
going with it.
my.
See, this is why I think we need to do a live play Dungeons and Dragons at least once, because I have to experience you as a player at the table at some point in my life, because I need that high level of nonsense and to understand your perspective when we talk about magic like this.
You can listen to the Authors and Dragons podcast.
Which you can find on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, right? Anywhere else on the internet we can plug that too.
On YouTube, and yeah, maybe those other ones you're talking about. I don't know.
Maybe, who knows? I don't. I just guessed, but always be plugging, right?
More competent people are in charge of that.
That's a good point. In any case, Mislead is going to be good. I talked about I talked very harshly in Greater Invisibility and.
You quizzed me. How would you use this in combat?
Sure. I think at its best in combat is exactly what you've already described, which is you Greater Invisibility. Nope, not the disrobing. You Greater Invisibility. You pop backwards. You still exist in the space, and creatures wail into it, right? You eat a couple of attacks, they recognize it's an illusory duplicate, and it's over. Alternatively, if you want to get fancy with it, this is the kind of thing where you mislead and try and if there's an important object that they're protecting, like if you're tracking down a MacGuffin that's protected by a bunch of kobolds, you send your mislead dashing down towards the object to pull some of them aside, and then you can still be central with your friends to deal with other things, conceivably, right? Like that's a very niche circumstance, but those will pop up every once in a while where your mislead will be able to, just through movement, or I guess some amount of brash taunting, be able to navigate an encounter to try and get people to go to a spot you want them to be. This also can be the kind of thing, right, where he wouldn't fireball. He's inside of us. He's running directly into the crowd. Everyone get him. Everyone dives on top into a giant dog pile. The wizard's not going to fireball himself. And then there's no wizard there. And then there's a giant fireball pile. That's another, again, niche.
That's
probably never
one.
realistically happening. But it's something you could think about trying with it.
Now, we come to these crossroads a lot where, especially around 5th and 6th level spells, where you think, oh, this is a neat effect. But at this spell level, and that's where I kind of am. Kind of high spell level, but it's a neat effect to where I like it.
So I really think if you could ignore the duplicate text, and this spell is very, very good. I would say the spell duplicate text almost doesn't matter if you're talking about determining how powerful it is, just because an hour-long greater invisibility on yourself means for an hour you have advantage on all attack rolls. For an hour, so long as you move after attacking, people don't know where you are unless they can very clearly hear you and things like that. You get all of the upsides of, and I really ripped into invisibility and greater invisibility when we talked about greater invisibility before. And I'm not going to do that here because I've already done that video on why I don't like them. But for the powerfulness of greater invisibility, Mislead is all of that for a longer duration, and that on its own absolutely justifies the 5th level slot. If you could spend 5th level slots to give a longer duration for greater invisibility, I would say the spell is even better, preposterously good. This is several encounters worth of invisibility. You're already hard to hit because you're invisible. It's all gas. It's absolutely worth the slot for the invisibility alone.
And then you've got some false image of you helicoptering and and taunting your enemies.
there is also, like, we haven't gone really necessarily through like the switching senses bit of it. This is something that you can just, while you're off exploring, while you're in a wilderness exploration kind of activity, be in two places at once. Say, okay, I'm gonna go stick with the team, but we want someone watching our flank, so I will keep me on the cart, keep me alive, and I will have a projected image of us behind. Now, granted, Find Familiar does that better at first level and doesn't cost you any spell slots or anything like that, but Find Familiar is busted. So there are other ways you can get these kinds of scrying effects going through other people's senses. Misleads is just gravy on top of what's already a really great spell. So all of it combines to be pretty baller. I would recommend this to almost anyone who likes the invisibility like play style, wants to be the invisible character causing mayhem, mischief, and destruction.
All right, you got a rating?
I'm gonna go. It's an invisibility spell. I think the invisibility spells are all 5s, and I think this is in that bucket.
I'm gonna give it a 5 as well because you've convinced me. The invisibility itself is worth it, but the bonus illusion is more so. Fun time.
Spell, yeah. If you are not prepared to deal with an hour-long invisibility, oh boy, can this can wreak havoc on games.
All right. Well, thank you for. Well, that was what was this?
Mislead.
Mislead. Yes. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.